Welcome to Overtime on Inferno, your weekly roundup of all the biggest stories in CSGO. Quicker than New Year's resolutions. Well, they don't go so well.
Yeah.
A quicker ride and rate and reviews at the end of the episode really helps us. I am Logan. This is AZ-esque. Let's get into it. For a quick programming note, this is Season 5, Episode 1, which means we've been doing this for 4 majors, which is kind of insane.
Yeah.
4
No,
majors.
I like the way we're rather than do years, you were just let's count everything in majors.
Well, we do it by player break. It's actually, I think, technically 3 majors because the first time we had a player break, there wasn't really a major happening at the time.
I used to listen to a comedian who would measure like car journeys and how many songs he could listen to.
I get that. I have done albums
So he's
before.
like, oh yeah, it's like 4 songs away. But like songs are different. Like if you listen to Jesus of Suburbia on your way there, you're like, oh yeah, it's 1 song away, but it's actually like 9 minutes.
Well, my friend lives like, I don't know, a mile away, but I can, from his house, anytime post 11 p.m., I can get from his house to my house by 1 listen of Kali Ma by Neck Deep. And it's a strong measurement because it happens every time. Pull into my driveway at the end of the song. All right, let's stop fucking around with distance and let's talk about moves.
It's nice. Yeah, good.
Yep. There's
one
a little bit of
roster that was 1 Neck Deep song away is
Cirque.
He is what is his neck is on the chopping line.
His neck is a little on the chopping block. So this is the only roster move that we have a who's leaving, but we don't have a who the fuck is coming in, and we'll explain. So Blast Premier groups have been revealed and rosters were put in. Roster for EG had a noticeable exclusion from it. So the roster was Breezy, Automatic, Nealon, Hexed, Wiz, Viz, 2 different people, Wiz and Viz, and George Snorts. Now, a couple of notes.
That's a lot of players.
That's 7 players.
Yeah.
2, George Snorts has yet to be officially signed by this team.
Yeah.
They have not announced that he has been signed. 3, I'm pretty sure he just changed his name to George. Because George Snorts,
I think his HWTV name's still George Snorts though, so.
Yeah.
And George Snorts is much better as well.
I agree, but
it's a fun name. Keep it.
Yeah, but I don't know if tournaments would
if he has changed it, he should change it back. That's what I'm saying.
But the point that we want to bring up here is that there's a certain lack of Bulgarian influence on this roster. And
as there are in most rosters, in fairness.
Yeah. So I want to talk about some stuff. I watched a very quick Flom video this morning that happened to actually lead me to believe lead me to think about this differently. So Wiz is an op player, if I remember correctly, because I'm doing my math in my head.
I believe so.
I believe Wiz is an op player. Again, Wiz and Viz, 2 different people. Wiz is an op player, so you would think that he would fit right into the EG main roster for Cirque, but they're bringing 2 riflers. So there's also a thought process here that Automatic, who had previously opt and previously was like actually okay at opping, that he may come back in as an opper, and they'll bring in either George Snorts or Viz with a V to play the rifle instead of Automatic.
I don't know if I'm going mad, but I feel like there was a rumor Automatic might be going back to Valorant. I might be going mad.
I had not seen that.
Maybe it was a joke that I saw.
I'm also a washed Valorant reporter, so I don't really have my the same kind of stuff anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be that surprised if that was the case. But like, I don't know. I don't understand EG because they've shown in the past that they want to sign players to the main roster, even though they had this 15-man roster type thing. So are they now going to call up people from... Like, is Wiz good enough to fill into this roster? I actually have no idea. We've seen Hext play. He's not really good enough for this level. But
The problem is none of them are really like they're all okay players for the teams that they play for, right? Party Astronauts, Carpe Diem, and formerly Noun, and well, actually still
they would
Nouns, but
need to
like
stand out on those
yeah,
teams.
exactly. You need to have like an OC level talent
And
when he
even
was on
then,
Extra
OC struggles
Salt.
at this level. Like
Exactly, but
I think George is good enough where he could eventually adapt to this level. I do think he's very good. I'm not convinced by Wiz or Viz or Hext.
Hext, I what the hearings that I've heard that like have been put on Twitter from Automatic and other people is that while Hex does not pass the eye test to start with, at least at the very beginning of him playing, every single day is an improvement kind of thing. And that it does seem to be getting better with Hext on the roster. Whether that will stick or not, I don't know.
Yeah.
Um, the problem with this team is that most other teams are built for some sort of contending for a title. You want to make top five, you want to make playoffs.
Yeah,
This team
exactly.
just has not felt like it's been built for that for a very long time. And then you add on the addition of the blueprint teams and you feel like, oh, EG is just saying we are going to house the best North American players and we're going to make them better, right? We're focusing on bringing them up and we're not focused on winning a championship. And I don't feel like any like bringing Cirque out does that. Like it definitely doesn't help them win a championship.
Well, I
But
have two thoughts. One is that there's no player in the world which turns this team into a tournament team.
no, correct, yes,
Like it doesn't matter who you could put simple on this team. This team isn't winning a tournament. So aiming to win a tournament is probably a little bit delusional.
yeah,
Therefore, maybe going for this sort of plan for the future, build up young players. Yeah, fine. I don't mind it too much. The second thought I have is, well, we know Cirque isn't good enough because we've watched him play, and you would be paying big wages to a guy who isn't very good anymore, isn't that young anymore, and is stopping your young players from moving up.
I
You
mean,
might as well pay less, and you might as well pay less and get a player who you don't know isn't bad, who you don't know if they're bad or not yet. But you might as well, because we already know Cirque is very good. We've watched him play for so long, and
yeah,
he's been rubbish for ages.
I think that Cirque though. I think Cirque services will be continued to be used in Europe. Because I have a feeling that a lot of teams will just say, "Oh, he was stuck in America for too long. He needs a jump start on how to play," and that you'll see some tier two European teams. I'm thinking like Sinners, even though Oscar is back onto Sinners,
Well,
that
that's the
would have
problem, right? Like, even tier two teams always have good AWPers.
yeah, but I my thing is that even if Cirque is a bad opera right now in tier one, at one point he was one of the better operas in tier one Counter Strike, and I think that someone's going to take a gamble on him and say we're going to try and get this guy to be the guy when they just turned into EG, when they had just won events as NRG, right? He's only 23. We go over this every time we talk about Cirque. He's still very young.
Yeah.
Like
I think
he's
somebody will
not your
take a
18,
gamble on
19
him.
years
I'm
old.
just not convinced that gamble is a good idea.
Oh, I have no clue if the gamble will work out. I just someone's gonna Circle won't go away. There's next to no way that Circle will actually just disappear into nothingness. Um, okay. Next on the list, we'd have teams that actually matter. Cloud9. We had talked about Cloud9 was looking to make moves a couple weeks ago. It looks like they are actually going to do that, which we both agreed was a good thing. This roster's been together for like 4 years with only the addition of Hobbit. The core's been together for like forever, and this roster reached its ceiling. So they look like they are going to take out Inters and add in Buster.
Which is the most boring possible
Yeah.
move.
Like
Like,
you could have done so many things.
yeah, like I don't. My thoughts on this move are that it has to have been some sort of out of server internal issue, because
Yeah,
when you swap inters for Buster, the improvement in the server is minimal
minimal. Yeah.
at best. Like, maybe there's a slight improvement, maybe there's even a slight downgrade. I don't know. To
It
replace your
looks
support player for a different support player makes me think there's probably something going on behind the scenes that we don't know about.
Yeah, and I remember that they were not they were trialing other players for this. I don't remember. I don't think Some Young was there, but they were definitely trialing one of
It
the
was
X Spirit.
Forrester and Sanji.
Yeah, and either one of those would have
Well,
at least been a more
Sanji's
exciting
very
move.
much the same school of thought. Forrester would be the most interesting one because it's a clear firepower upgrade.
Yeah, I think the difference is that Sanji would be just hard support and hopefully unlock a little bit of the other players,
But
but
Sanji's just worse than Inters. He's the same player but slightly worse. I don't.
yeah,
I really don't get it. Like it doesn't. It
I,
has to
I
be something behind the scenes, as far as I'm concerned. Like,
I think either way, this team is still another move away from doing something great.
and that
Um,
move is probably minus Nafany.
yeah, I think Axile and Shiro have shown their worth 1,000 times over. Hobbit has been the guy anytime that they play on LAN in a big event in a playoff game. He has been the
Yeah, I
guy.
mean, I could see a world where replacing Hobbit is the right move, but I think it's minus
I,
Inter Nafany. I mean,
yeah,
minus Inter plus a star player could have been the move. I don't know. It might not be, and that has more chance to backfire. But I don't know.
I,
Minus Nafany plus like Boomich would have been fun.
oh, well, let's add Boomich to the list of people to talk about. And let's do it right now.
He's a free
Because
agent now, right?
he's a free agent, and there's rumblings that he's making his own team.
I think he's going to have to because he's going to have to rebuild his reputation, which is a weird thing to say because Navi have got worse since he's left.
Yeah.
And
But there's
obviously there are other circumstances there. I'm not trying to say he was the reason. I'm just saying like his reputation inside the server should not have changed. He's a major winning in-game leader, like caveat or not. He's won big events as a leader, as a player as well. Like he isn't a terrible player by any stretch of the imagination. And all that's happened is his dirty laundry of a dodgy relationship is all over the internet. Like
Boomich to Cloud9 would have been a good move.
Boomer Cloud9 would have been great fun. Like that would have just been fun. Like, and again, like all that's happened is he was like what 19 when he started dating this girl, or like 20 when he started dating a girl, and his relationship is all over the internet. Can you imagine if your relationships when you were a teenager were like big news?
Yeah.
It'd be awful. I mean, I've talked before about a relationship I had when I was like 18. There's no way anyone would like. If you knew about that, like you probably think I was a bit insane as well. Like, I do feel really bad for Fumic because what's happened is, okay, it's not, it's obviously his fault, and like he could have stopped it and all, but come on, like he's had one bad relationship with a woman who was a little bit, like clearly had an issue with him.
Yeah.
He made mistakes, but they were nothing to do with him as a Counter-Strike player. And
And
people will immediately say, "Oh yeah, no, config should go to this team. Config should go to this team." And what config did is surely far more destructive to a team than what Boomich did. Given config has has done it multiple times, and Boomich, as far as
and
we know, has only dated one, has only
and
dated
well,
one woman.
and it's not it's two totally different separate things, right? It's like
Yeah.
config
But my
almost got
point is that people are willing to immediately forgive config, and yet Boomich for some reason is tainted, and I don't really get it.
all right. Breaking news. Not super breaking, but the CSGO regional standings, where we're going to use as a little interlude here. Counter-Strike, a couple weeks ago, had an update. We don't generally talk about updates because they generally don't mean anything to us. But this one kind of did, which was they introduced the CSGO regional standings, which is how they are doing the RMRs now. There's been some change to the RMRs. We talked about it a little while ago, but the regional standings is the big bit. They have updated the regional standings. Nothing should surprise in here, other than the fact that G2 is number one on the regional standings for Europe.
What?
They are in
Because they won the
points.
most recent event, but
They are beating Heroic by 2 points.
okay. Okay.
I
I
have
mean,
no other
no, I guess
nothing.
that they were really heavily tuning for recency, which I think is fair.
Yeah, so they do have a thing of how it gets calculated.
Yeah.
Um,
I will
and
leave
I'm
that to
not.
the boffins to
I was gonna
figure
say I'm
out.
not smart enough to figure this
Yeah.
out. So Harry can figure that out, and he'll
Yeah, no,
follow.
like
So,
I
like,
think
he'll do
tuning
it.
for recency is probably a good thing because things change very quickly in Counter Strike. Like a team who was good 6 months ago could be rubbish now. Like 6 months ago, I think Movistar were in the top five.
That was a thing.
Like, and now they aren't even top 55. Like things change extremely quickly. Tuning for recency, I think, is probably fair. That might be a little bit too much. Where Heroic should quite clearly be the best team in the world, as far as I'm concerned. But fine.
All
It's
right.
either them or outsiders, but outsiders don't go to enough events,
Yeah.
and then
All
they're
right.
also terrible at Blast.
Speaking of teams that don't go to enough events, we have a
Here we go.
conflicting report.
Is this on Godsend?
It is on Godsent.
Yeah. So one of them is, I'm pretty sure, nonsense.
Okay, so let's fill everyone who's listening in
Yeah.
with
So
context.
Godsend are basically are coming back to Counter Strike, and they want to sign a team.
And Ryan of Dust 2
Ryan
Media,
shared
Russian Media,
something where they were saying they were going to sign Bad News Eagles, which I'm pretty sure is bullshit. I'm not certain, but I'm pretty sure it's bullshit.
it's possible.
I don't
Uh,
think
yeah.
that's the thing. I don't think they're signing Bad News Eagles.
Uh,
I don't know
we
who they're signing, but I don't think it's Bad News Eagles.
yeah we someone we know has said that that was bullshit, as
Yeah,
well as
I,
anything either of the
I've
two of
heard
us.
it from multiple people
Yeah.
that it's nonsense. But
Um. So I guess that leaves us with: do we have an idea of who Godsent is signing? Because there's
uh,
not, to me, right? Godsent's a Swedish organization. There's not many teams that they could reasonably sign sitting within the Swedish scene, right? Your one check, I guess, is eyeballers, but I
yeah,
don't think you really
I
want to
can't see
sign
doing that.
eyeballers
Yeah,
right
that
now.
seems like a bad idea. It's pretty hard to like. Bad News Eagles makes sense because if you put two and two together, that does seem like they're a good team without an organization. Godsent want to sign a team. Seems like a simple fit, but I've heard that isn't true, and I can see how somebody would come to the conclusion that it is because that's the one that makes the most sense. There aren't many good unsigned teams. Maybe they go to somebody like Boomage
Yeah, I was just thinking
if
of
he is
Boomich.
building his own
Okay.
team. Maybe that's where they go. Like they go, well, we need to sign. We need to sign a team that's unsigned. They're the ones we go to. Maybe like VP can't compete anywhere, and outsiders are actually available. That maybe that's a one, but that would be a fun one. But again, I don't think that's
Yeah.
going to be the case either. There's talk of VP being allowed back soon, so
Just just another wrinkle in this is that Team Solo Mid TSM has previously said that they were looking to come back into Counter Strike in early 2023. Whether that will actually happen after the collapse of FTX, which was their main title sponsor or whatever, whether that actually happens because of monetary reasons anymore, I don't know. But that is another team that theoretically is looking to get into Counter Strike in the next couple of months. And they did say that they were looking in Europe. So whether Godsend signs the Bad News Eagle team or Bunich team or something else that neither of us are thinking of, there's always chance that we do have another theoretically tier one team with whatever TSM bring into the fold.
in theory,
In theory,
I have a feeling the FTX thing might make that more difficult, and they actually
we'll
won't
see.
be able to. But
We'll
who
see
knows?
either way. Okay, two more important bits for the list. Um, this one is not a direct one leave, one join, but it is. Threat, former coach for Ninjas and Pajamas, now the former Counter Strike technical director, is leaving NIP after like a million years, and he wants to get back into direct coaching.
Yeah,
Um,
that makes sense.
so
I don't know where he would end up. Like, I have absolutely no idea.
I have zero clue. The thing is that any team would be a good landing spot for Threat. There's not many coaches that I would think of that are a better coach than Threat.
It's really hard to evaluate coaches.
It
I'm
is
not
hard
gonna
to
like
evaluate, but yeah.
There are very few. It's not like in regular sports where, certainly in football, which is what I watch the most. Like the manager is like the guy. Like you, what he says goes. Like his decisions are really important and really obvious, and he is the one who sets out like the way you're going to play. In Counter Strike, at least, you have an in-game leader who often is as important as the coach, which I suppose actually is much akin to cricket. Cricket has a very similar
Sure.
system where the coach and the captain are um, often aligned in decisions. Like they have to make those decisions as a pair, and they make, like the captain and the coach make selection decisions, and they make decisions on how things do. But on field, it is largely the captain. And I would say that's very similar to Counter Strike. So coaches themselves aren't that important for the most part. I'm sure some of them are. Like some of them, you can tell. Blade, for example, is quite clearly the head honcho of Na'Vi. Threat, I don't know how much he's done. What I will say is when NIP replaced him, they got better.
I I'm not even sure if I can say that that's true, because every time NIP has their own roller coaster of how they're doing at any given moment. So that could
Yeah.
always be inflected by the fact that no one believes in NIP, and so they're now good.
But they had horrible T sides under threat, and then DJL came in, and their T sides were
they
like instantly better.
they also had Plopsky under threat. So
That is true. That is very true.
there's a lot of, unfortunately, this is not a isolate one thing and suddenly it's better.
Yeah, that's
There
the
have been
problem, right? Like, that's the problem with trying to judge any coach is they all have like circumstances beyond their control, and it's
yeah.
very difficult to just do a one for one comparison to comparison. Like you can win a major as a coach and it'd be nothing to do with you, and you could be a brilliant coach and your team is just awful and it doesn't matter. Like it's really difficult to tell.
All right. We have one more move that has happened. Well, actually, it hasn't happened. It's all but been confirmed as happening, but it hasn't been confirmed yet, which is Sumdai Young is leaving Navi. That is confirmed.
Yeah.
And NPL. Oh, wait. I'm sorry. I'm dumb. I went ahead of myself. The move that is all but confirmed to be happening is that Headtrick is joining
Yes.
NIP. I
Okay.
said that there is a leaving and a joining bit. I just didn't fill in the
Yeah.
blanks here. Headtrick seems to be joining NIP, which has a couple of ripple effects within everything. One, last time I checked, Headtrick was Ukrainian, which is not Swedish.
Yeah.
And the reason I bring that up is because Brolin specifically did not want to
Yeah,
join a
they've been
team.
speaking English for a while with Alexi anyway. Alexi also doesn't speak Swedish, as far as
I
I know.
just need to bring this up every time someone
Yeah.
that's not Swedish joins that team, is
So
that Brolin left
I
Fnatic to
I
join.
wonder how much this is like overplayed. And have you ever heard the story of like when people who are in like academy football and they don't make it, and it's always like, oh yeah, they told me I was too short to be a professional footballer, and it's like you're a child. What they really meant was you're not good enough, but they're sugarcoating it. And I wonder if Broland just wanted to leave Fnatic because he's like, oh yeah, no, I want to go speak Swedish actually. Yeah, that's why I want to go to NIP and not Fnatic. And I think I really think a I don't actually remember if he said it or if it was just like a rumor, because again, NIP now speak English, so he obviously can't have that much of an issue with it. And B, I just sort of think he might have been, maybe it's not I don't want to speak English, it's I don't want to play with English people, which is a defensible position. Like if I played with Smooya for 6 months, I also wouldn't want to speak English. I'd be like learning other languages. Like, yeah, fuck it out. I'll learn Swedish.
I
Please
will
sign me NIP.
learn any language other than the one that we're speaking.
Yeah, exactly. If I can communicate with other people and not Smooya,
If
perfect.
I need to learn how to speak like Japanese to play
Yeah.
elsewhere, I'm doing it.
Or maybe he just doesn't like Brummie accents, and he's like, yeah, no, Mezzi, we need to. I can't listen to this anymore.
I have one quick thing on the standings, the CS:GO regional standings, that was just pointed out to me. First of all, EG Black rated higher than EG, which tracks.
Yep.
Also, EG's regular roster is listed with Pwn alone instead of Cirque, but also EG white roster is also listed with Pwn alone.
Oh god, EG is such a mind fuck. Like, what the hell is going on?
Their blueprint program is so confusing that not even Valve understands who's
Yeah.
on a given
Well,
team at a
I
time.
imagine don't EG maybe EG submit the rosters, they don't know who's on each team.
To
That would
be
also
fair,
make sense.
I mean, so in Europe, Big's roster has Gob on it and no Crimbo.
Right.
I don't know if that's foreshadowing. I hope it's not
No, because
foreshadowing.
Crimbo's good. There's no way they get rid of Crimbo. I don't know. I don't know
It's-
what's going on. It's
So
probably just Valve
just
being
just funny, interesting things. All right,
absolute
last roster move
absolute
we've
father
got.
Valve.
Sumdai Young is leaving Navi as expected. Obviously was signed as a stand-in. He actually was not signed to a long-term thing. He was just signed in as a event-by-event stand-in. They seem to be promoting NPL or nipple, depending on how the casters start to say it.
I'm going to call him Nipple.
Okay, you do that.
Free the nipple.
So NPL seems to be the replacement for Sumdai Young, who was the replacement for Boomich. I'm pretty
They
sure
should
they
just
should
bring
just.
Boomich back.
Yep.
That'd
I
be
was
great
just
fun.
thinking that.
Like, you know what, Boomich? You've had your 6 months on the sidelines. We've just released you to free agency. We're going to sign you back. It'd be great fun.
Maybe the release to free agency was just so he could get more money in contract negotiations. Because now he's a free agent. Other teams are looking to try and get his services.
Yeah, and so now they're gonna have to pay him more.
Exactly. No.
They're not gonna re-sign Boomich.
No.
Unfortunately.
The Sumdai Young to NPL move, it to me is kind of just sideways.
Yeah.
I'm
But
sure that
it means
NPL's
they
gonna.
don't have to pay an extra player.
Yeah, I'm sure NPL's got a higher ceiling. Right, like end of the day, I'm sure I'm fairly certain he's young enough that, like, you know what, in 2 years maybe he'll probably be a little bit better player than Sumdai Young. But again, I don't think that it's a marginally better move. And it seems that Navi has been in a little bit of a rut for a while,
They
and
need to
that's
change
just
something, and
they
that's the
need to
most
change
obvious one.
something. Yeah, and the biggest and the problem is that there's no fallback plan if Simple isn't the best player in the world, and this
Yeah,
doesn't fix
but like,
that.
how do you ever? If you have Simple, your plan should never be. Yeah, but
the,
what if Simple isn't the best player in the world? Because most of the time he is.
the thing is we look through this roster and you go, wow, I wonder if they have the best player at every role, and you go through and you go, well, he's definitely a top 5 player at his role. Perfecto, he's
Yeah,
a top 5 player. Electronic, yeah, he's a top 5 player at his role. And you go through the list, right? Take away somebody on MPL Boomich, right? And you go Simple, well, he's the best player in the world 99% of the time. And you go, well, what happens if he's not the best player in the world? Well, we still have three of the
yeah,
like 3 players who are top 5 in the world, and we still can't do anything. There's something going on there.
yeah. I
I
mean,
can't tell you what it
I'm
is.
pretty sure the war obviously just
Okay,
completely
yes.
derailed this team in so many ways. Like, Simple was so clearly affected by it, and understandably, and it really impacted his. He
Still
probably
affected
isn't
by it.
playing the game as much as he did,
Yeah.
because he's like having to deal with the real world implications of a war between the warring neighbors, and unfortunately we'll never know how good that Navi quintet would have been. Even the Boomich one was broken by the Boomich situation, and then the Sumdai Young one that looked really good at the start was broken by the war. And it's a real shame, because Simple had just hit a
Peak
level
Simple.
that he was, beyond even what he had been capable of in the past, and then the real world just obviously that's not the biggest shame of this situation. Don't don't
Yeah.
misconstrue that. Like, obviously, the real world
Obviously the
implications
war.
are far worse. But like, yeah, it's really sad, because we'll never see this
I mean,
the
fuck
top
the real
tier
world,
Navi
but
again.
like
Yeah.
that's its own matter. Um I think that's. Do you have anything else to add to the roster move mania? This has seemed like a very tame roster move season.
Yeah, I mean, it is. There are still moves that could go ahead, but a lot of the
Yeah.
top teams, you look at and you go, well, I don't actually know what they change at the moment.
Well, I think there's like confirmation that there's another move coming.
Striker sort of was
Yes,
teasing there was a move coming, but
yes.
we
Striker
could
based.
we can have a guess at what that move would be, but
Yeah, so
I've got
so
no idea.
Striker said with the Cloud9 set to sign Buster post 2 days ago that there may be one more bigger move if rumors are to be believed.
Oh, I think there was a rumor. I can't remember who they were signing, but there was a rumor that outsiders were going to cut Norbert.
I did hear that as well.
That's good. That means I
But I
didn't dream it because
no, no,
there
no,
was
no,
a
but I
world
can't
that I might
remember
have
who it
dreamt
was
that.
for.
Yeah, no, I don't
It
remember,
was
but that
for
was
Carrion from Aurora.
Chiron. Yes, yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's who it was. But
Who has got 2 votes already
for the
for
next
the
best
quote unquote
player.
bold prediction, which are never bold because it was a player that's obviously decent.
Oh, let's talk about that for a second. Let's talk about our bold predictions. And by bold predictions, I don't mean bold predictions at all. So top 20 started.
Yeah.
Um,
No
obviously come out.
surprises unless you're a bit dim, and for some
Yeah,
reason there are people saying Bit shouldn't be top 20.
they come out day by day. Today's again recording January 4th. Today's has not come out yet. It will come out about
Was it
I
not
don't know.
Hunter?
No, that was yesterday.
I lose
Or
track of days.
they may be doubling up early just to get through
Yeah, I think
these.
they are. My sleeping pattern's all over the place, so I don't know what time things
So there
happen.
is one that comes out about an hour after we finish recording. I don't expect it to be that big of a deal. Um,
No.
so in order from 20 upwards, Jame, Yuri, Spinks, Frozen, Bit, Yakindar, Hunter. People seem to have issue a little bit with the Spinks one, with the Bit one, and with the Frozen ones, I think they are.
Nearly all of the concerns can be explained by the fact that people immediately forget what happened in the first 6 months of the year.
Yeah. Spinks was just one of the best players in the world for like the first 7 months, six,
Yeah.
7 months, somewhere there.
And then he's been rubbish
And
on Vitality, but then who hasn't?
yeah, and he hasn't been absolutely dog water. He's just been fine. But he was like top 3 player in the world for the first half of the year. Like he was
Yeah,
absolutely
he was
insane.
unbelievable on ends.
So none of us have huge issues with this.
Bit was god tier at Antwerp Major, and
Mhm.
like he was like a 1.22 player at the Antwerp Major, I think. He tailed off second half of the year, but he was still really good in the first half of the year. Frozen, vice versa, was mediocre in the first half of the year,
But
superb in
he's
the
been
second half of the year.
really good. Yukindar's been good all year. I don't think anyone's complaining about Yukindar.
Yukindar's issue is his playoff ratings aren't that high. That's why he's
Yeah,
only
but
15th.
he's played with Liquid all year.
Yeah, well, yeah, but he puts up high ratings in group stages and then falls off in playoffs, which can be explained sort of by the fact that he's an aggressive player and you play against better teams, but also it does have to be marked down against him. Like,
Here's my favorite thing is that 2 teams won the major this year, right? That was FaZe
outsiders,
earlier this year and Outsiders later this year. FaZe should probably get at least 2 players in the top 20.
they'll get
Um,
3 minimum, maybe 4.
okay. So I was going Rops and Brokey and Twists in my head. I
There's a
don't
world where Rain makes it.
There's a world where Rain makes it. Carrigan won't, but that's okay because Carrigan everyone understands Carrigan. He does not need a top 20 award. Um, the interesting thing is about the other team that won the major this year,
Yeah,
which is
like
Outsiders, which I don't think will have anyone in the top 20 other than Jame at 20.
yeah, it's harsh because I think Flit is one of the 20 best players in the world.
I think he's probably 21 on this list because here's the thing:
Yeah, look,
if
that's the
I
thing.
had
Like,
to
the
rate him,
HOTV top 20 is not the best 20 players in the world. It's obviously something slightly different.
yes,
Um,
I'm more looking at if I had to go on this list and I put Flit on this list, he'd be probably like 18. And the
yeah.
fact that we're up to 13 in an hour and he hasn't been announced says to me he's not on the list.
So the argument against Flit would be he was poor at Cologne, he was poor at the Antwerp Major. but he was a 1.25 at the Rio Major, 1.18 at Pro League. Pro League doesn't really count. Yeah, I guess the argument for the thing with outsiders
We're
is they
it's
didn't play that
strong.
many big
Yeah,
events.
it's also strong recency bias on the end of the year. They may have
Yeah,
been the best players for the last
I,
2
I
months
mean,
of the year.
I
There's
I'm
10 other months.
I'm quite happy to say that I base a lot of it on majors because I put a lot of weight on that.
Mhm.
Is the big those are the biggest events of the year. The Rio Major, in my eyes, was one of, if not the biggest events of all time in terms of the pressure on it. And everyone coming, there was no clear favorite. Everyone came in with a chance to win. Massive crowd, like really hyped event. It's a fucking major. Like it was a huge event. And to me, the outsiders stood the tallest and didn't crumble under the pressure everyone else did. I weigh that really highly. So I will happily say that, yeah, no, I'm biased towards people who stood out at the Rio Major, which is why I say Fame and Flit can feel a little bit hard done by. But over the course of the year, which is what HOTV, the way HOTV, these are the best players of this year. And often it is based on statistics, which again, perfectly, it's the most objective way to do it. And I understand that Fame and Flit don't get in on that metric, but I do think Flit is one of the best 20 players in the world, even if he's not in the HOTV top 20, which again, different things.
Yep, agreed. I think this is going to be the first year in a lot of years that Elige and or NAF don't make this list. If
Yeah.
you were looking for like streak stoppers,
It's hard
again,
to
I
put
think.
either of them above Yekindar, and
Yep,
Yekindar's already gone. So
yep. I think that they are both in that top 25. If we brought the list down just a little bit, that you'd probably hit both of them. You'd probably hit. You may hit Flit in there depending on your weight on the end of the year. But
here's my question: who's top one next year?
I actually don't know, but I think there's a question about who's top one this year.
This year, it's closer than it's
It's
ever been, and it's probably the weakest that it's ever
it's
been. But it'll be
the
simple.
the answer is simple, but the point is that we need to think about it a little bit.
Number two's probably
Number two
Shiro.
is number two is scary to
I
look
think
at.
it's Shiro. I think it's simple Shiro Zaiwu. And Harry
I
will still tell me that the AWP is like not
I
overpowered.
am not certain that that's true. I think that one of the heroic players, maybe Tessus, is top three.
If any of them, it's Stan, and it won't be Stan. Like
I meant Stan.
I'm telling you, it's simple Shiro Zaiwu. Like Zaiwu, even though he bottles every playoffs, his rating's so good. Like he will be top three. If Blame F is in the top 20, I'm going to be upset, even though I know
Oh
he
no,
will
we're
be.
we're we're done with this
I'm
podcast.
going to be
We're
upset.
we're
But
done with
he
this
shouldn't be
podcast.
anywhere near it. His team have been awful, and all he's done is just stand on the other side of the map from them and then get high
I'm
ratings. I hate him.
I'm
So
gonna make
much.
I'm gonna make editor beef just put a 1 hour rendition of Crab Rave up every week for the rest of the year instead of doing the podcast if Blame F gets top 20.
If he gets top 5, then yes.
If he gets top 5, if he gets top 5, if he gets top 20, then we'll have to talk about it. So, all right,
Yeah. I think next year will be really interesting because we've seen Simple tail off a bit. Shiro, Cloud9 have been really iffy at the end of this year. And like going into next year, do you really think they're going to be that good? Heroic, it's really hard to suggest that any of their players are going to be the best player in the world.
yeah, Heroic is
As
kind
good as
of
they
a
are as a team, and the
they're
same with
very
Outsiders.
Heroic and Outsiders are very much the sum of the team is better than the sum of the individuals.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, the sum is greater than the individual parts.
They are very much in that ballpark. So I don't expect like that's the thing about Outsiders, how neither of us are super like
Yeah, they
not
have great
impressed.
players,
Like
but I don't think any of them are ever going to be the best player in the world.
yeah,
This might be a hot take. 2023's number one player of the year will be Monacy.
I don't know how hot of a take that is.
I don't
G2,
know how hot of a take it is, but
kind of everywhere. Mondesi has shown that he kind of he can do it.
he's
The
evolved
question
in the space of like 9 months into an elite AWPer.
It's the question of consistency and whether G2 can do anything. If G2 doesn't qualify for the major, then it doesn't fucking matter.
Yeah,
Right?
that's
Like,
true.
like
Well,
if G2 doesn't qual-
they're currently
if,
going straight to the closed qualifier because they're high ranking.
but
They're
if
in.
G2
They play
if
every event, and Monacy has just become, in my eyes, the third best AWPer in the world
yeah, but again,
already, and he's
if
going to get better.
if G2 doesn't go to the Paris major or whatever the same major in the year is,
Yeah, but they're going to, because Monacy's going to be the best player in the world. Are you not listening to me? Monacy's going to be the best player in the world in 2023 because he's going to take G2 to like semi-finals at the Paris major.
now here's the interesting thing: G2 didn't make the biggest major in the world this year, and Hunter's on this list, and Monacy will be on this list too.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, so
it doesn't even matter. But like, to be number one, you have to go to both majors, definitely. But
to be top
he will.
five,
Like, he
you
will.
should have to go to both majors.
Like,
but
if G2 don't make the major, then like Na'Vi should just offer them simple in exchange for Monacy. That's what I'm going. I'm saying 2023's number one player of the year will be Monacy. He's improved so quickly, and like mechanically, he's almost flawless. Like, you watch him play, it's every time you get to watch Monacy play is a joy. And I just think the numbers he's hitting now at the end of the year are like what he was doing in the Academy League. And if he makes Tier 1 CS like anything like what he made the Academy League look like, he's going to be the best player in the world. And the way Simple and Zywoo have trended, the way Cloud9 don't quite seem to have it. I don't know what it is, but they don't quite seem to have it. I don't know. I think Monacy can do it.
well, that's been our show for the week. We will either be back next week or the week after. It will depend on how much stuff comes out in the next week.
Yes.
Because if nothing happens, then I'm not going to bore everyone with 20 minutes of us talking about nothing.
We'll do 20 minutes of what each team's New Year's resolution should be.
Well, our show on the 18th, which will happen regardless, will be our pre-blast winter, spring. I don't know what the fuck it's called.
There's also Katowice starting the week after that, right?
Yeah, but we have Blast first tournament of the year. We'll talk about all the teams going into that event, including all of the weird EG changes again, when hopefully we have a little bit more confirmation on that. And I want to go through what do we expect to come out of this year. So be prepared for that to come on the 19th at the latest. We may do that on the 18th at the latest. We may do that next week. Depends on how scheduling works out. But at this point, you can follow us on Twitter at LoganRamhup, at AZEsk, and at ReedTLDR, and we will be back soon.
Yes.